Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome to episode 1 of the Borderless podcast with myself, Ali Kareem.
And Ben Detour.
And we're here to kind of take you around the world and show you some of the stories that you're not going to hear on your regular media, on your local channels, so you can understand what's actually going on behind the scenes, behind the borders of other countries. And before we get to today's guest, since this is the first episode, Ben and I are just going to introduce ourselves a little bit and tell you a little bit about our backgrounds. So my name is Ali Kareem, and I'm a medical doctor in the Washington, D.C. area, where I've been practicing for many years. I did all my training here locally and have been working in the hospital setting as an internal medicine doctor. And taking care of patients has kind of been my thing for a long time now. But a few years ago, I quit my job and I left to travel around the world to document the reality of what's going on in other nations, which is something we'll talk about more in detail in today's episode, but also as we go along during the course of this podcast, that I traveled to these places to kind of document the real stories of the people and try to show it in a way that would educate Americans and anybody else around the world that doesn't have that exposure. So as I traveled from 2016 to 2019, I went to over 70 countries, one of which was the country of Nigeria, which we're going to discuss today. And I don't want to get too into the trees with that right now, as our guest is going to tell us a little bit more. But that's kind of my background, and you guys will hear more about me later. But Ben, why don't you tell everybody about you a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, everybody, thank you for tuning into the podcast. As Ali mentioned, this is our first episode, and the goal is to really just shed a light on some of the places that you don't necessarily hear about every single day. So a little bit about myself. I'm a professional video editor, and when Ali mentioned that he was going to be traveling around the world, I couldn't help but want to learn more about what he was doing and help him document it.
But like Ben, I appreciate that. The purpose behind it, and you found my social media, and that's how we proceeded to connect. And the documentary is still coming to life right now. But this was an endeavor to try to help those who cannot get their stories out. So our guest on today's podcast is a man who's very special to me, who I met during my travels in the country of Nigeria. This was in April of 2019, when I traveled there to go to the 5-year anniversary of the kidnapping of the schoolgirls of Chibok village, Chibok Secondary School, by the militants of Boko Haram, which some of you may have heard about in the news, CNN, BBC, etc. And while I was there filming and interviewing some of the parents who are still to this day waiting for their children to return, I met a very talented media journalist, cinematographer, documentary filmmaker, a variety of other things he can talk about as well, by the name of Samson Aboku. And Mr. Aboku, or as I like to call him, Samson, is here with us today. And Samson, I'm just going to shut up. Why don't you take the reins and tell us like your story, tell us how we met, tell us about you in relation to the Chibok girls and who they are and who you are and everything.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be on the first podcast, of course. Doctor has already introduced me. My name is Aboku Samson, and I'm a citizen of Nigeria and from Chibok local government. Some few years ago, I was just an ordinary person in Chibok local government. I had wanted to study journalism at first, but I never had a chance. So what happened was on 14th of April, 2014, I was in Chibok when the Chibok girls were adopted. I was around and I've been seeing what was going around those girls were adopted and nobody was talking about it. So because of the passion I had for journalism and making my voice to be heard, I decided to take the chance, to do what I wanted to do, and that was to film and also organize protest. I've been watching France 24, CNN, BBC, and all those channels, and I've seen a lot of people protesting, and talking about the Chibok girls, but it was unfortunate that nothing was happening in my own locality where it actually happened. The country, Nigeria, many speculations was going around that it wasn't actually true that the girls were adopted. So I thought to myself and also organized some people, and then we went out to make it known to people that yes, it was actually true. So that was how I became, or rather, I stepped into the media to begin that journey that I wanted to. So I'm so happy that through that first protest we organized, that was how the world came to know truly that with pictures, with videos, that was how it was known. Because right after what I did, the video I recorded, that was how BBC and other international media were able to get visual of what actually happened, meet with the parents, and that was how it all started. So the place is actually not very good for people to live at the moment because of the insecurity. Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, Samson? Can you tell us a little bit about the Chibok girls themselves, like what happened to them and how many of them are back now and all of that? And then what do you mean by the insecurity, so that the audience, I know what you mean, Ben knows, but if the audience can kind of pick up on that.
Well, if you want to know what the insecurity means, like as I'm speaking to you right now, 3 hours ago, there was an attack just few kilometers from Chibok. I think I should be around 14 kilometers from Chibok in a village called Rumirgo. It wasn't long ago. It was around 6, 7 this evening, which is maybe 3 hours. I don't know how long that attack had lasted, but they usually attack for more than 3, 4 hours. If they do so, then perhaps they might still be currently attacking that village. So that's to tell you that it is a very serious issue. When I say insecurity, that means you are in a 50-50 chance of living. That's what I mean. We should talk more about the Chibok girls. The Chibok girls, about 107 of them are still with the Boko Haram, which the government and the media trying to explain that most of these girls actually, they were killed during the attacks and all those, and the few of them that are still left alive or are married to the Boko Haram, therefore they are not willing to come back.
So that's interesting. If you don't mind, I'm just going to back up. You mentioned that some of them may still be or maybe married now to their captors, the Boko Haram. So it begs the question, is there a little bit of
Yes.
Stockholm syndrome going on there where they've fallen in love with their captors? Or
Yes. So when we talk about those who have gotten married to them, of course, there's this radicalization. When you live with people for so long, you start to behave like them. If you look at people who have stayed far away from, the people that they used to stay with, before you know, they start behaving like those people who they are living with. So I believe staying with Boko Haram for this long, most of them have already given up on the fact that maybe perhaps someday they will come back or not. And there are other issues that is forcing them to get married, because I interviewed some of these girls. For those who have married Boko Haram, I asked them if they were forced to or not. And they said actually there was no force in that marriage, but because of the circumstances, once you agree to marry Boko Haram, they will provide you with shelter, they will provide you food, and if there's anything that you need that the husband can be able to assist, that's a plus for you. So, and these are the things that actually makes them to go into marriage with those people. It's not like they want to, but because of they had little option.
So, Samson, I'm glad that you brought that up, and I see what Ben's saying as well about the Stockholm syndrome. But definitely, you can't. Love is pure, I guess, right? But one thing that I wanted to kind of think about is you and I have been doing an NGO project as well out there, and that we'll link that to all of you listening. We'll put the link in. The NGO is called Global Shout, and we're doing projects in many countries. But the one there in Chibok, we actually were sending some of the girls that returned. And for context for the audience, 276 girls were kidnapped in 2014, as Samson said. 51 escaped on that same day as they were put on the back of these Boko Haram convoy trucks. They jumped off and they ran away. The 225 that remained, 21 of them were released in 2016 after the government negotiated with Boko Haram. Another 82, I believe, were released in 2017. And this was after trading them for terrorists who were actually imprisoned by the government. And now recently, there's been word a month or two ago that some more girls have been released. But there are girls that are still there, the ones that we were just talking about who had no choice, sleeping in the mud. As you said, they have to get by. And there are rumors that some of these girls are now in other countries because the area where Boko Haram is situated in the Zambisa forest is actually a very difficult to reach area for any government entities. And it straddles 4 different countries, right? Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. So there are these rumors that the girls have been spotted in other countries. Some of them, they say, are not even alive anymore or whatnot. So how much of these rumors are true? And then how much would you say that the local people, now knowing that potentially either they have been forced to marry or I guess not by choice or are still out there for all these years, that maybe they have been turned or radicalized or however you want to call it, and maybe there's a lack of acceptance of the local community to even allow the girls to come back home because they think they may be a mole or a cell or something like that?
Yes, the girls, some of them, they were killed in the airstrikes. Some of them, like few of them that were shown on the screen by the Boko Haram, that the girls holding AK-47 guns and saying that they are no longer coming home. Well, the parents have to believe that one also because they can see visually, they can hear from what their daughter is saying that they are no longer coming back. Well, that's difficult to take in, but then it is what it is because they can't help it. For those ones, for the parents that are still hoping that someday their daughter might come back, well, it's true because recently, it's not up to a month, one girl was actually found from the forest when the military, bombarded the Zambisa forest. So if they had given up, that wouldn't have been possible, I believe that there are still more that will still come out of those ones that are still in captivity because as long as there's life, there's hope, except for those who have been killed. But if at any chance that if anyone is still alive out there, I believe that they will still come back home.
Well, the whole story is just so tragic, and it's unfortunate it hasn't gotten the attention through your government or through your media that it really deserves. And if we can go way back to the beginning here, where were you on the day that this all happened? I mean, did it come out of the blue where these children, these girls were kidnapped? And was this, did anybody see this coming?
Well, I don't want to remember that night actually, but since you asked me, then I will take you right back. Well, it was already late. It was like 10:13 to 11. I was already in my room, and then my younger brother came knocking, and he was banging at my door, and I was I was not happy because then I was just right about to sleep. But then when I heard my mom was the one knocking, then I know it was something serious. So I came out, and my mother said, look, you should not sleep because Chibok is under attack, because my village just few kilometers, 7 kilometers away from where it all happened, you know. But we heard that Boko Haram was attacking. So we are all alert, and there's nothing much we could do. All we could do was to get ourselves ready. If anything should happen, we should run. And then the night was long, but the night, the morning came. So the day break, and then we all came out to know exactly what was happening. And then we have been told that the school, the government secondary school in Chibok have been attacked. My father one day called us together because we are all boys in my family. So my father said to us that we should go. We should leave for the city because he doesn't want to lose us, you know. And then he said, if he dies, that we shouldn't come back to the village. You know, I shed tears because if your father should tell you that if he dies that you shouldn't come back, that's a very touching one.
That's enough to break your heart. Absolutely.
I looked back, you know, yeah. I looked back and I saw my father was standing with my mother. Man, it is a terrible story. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
we appreciate you.
Stop there.
Eric.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
I'm gonna shift us to a different direction so we can, you know, give you a break there. You know, I experienced Chibok in Nigeria for 4 months when I was there, and I can speak to the fact that it's an amazing country. I feel for Nigeria, and I want things to get better. I don't want any more of the Chibok girls to happen in the future.
Yeah, I believe you remember we went to a village that nobody wanted to go with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
We went to meet the girl. We met one of.
Yes, and you know that village. If you should move 5 more kilometers from that village, you are going right into Sambisa Forest, and that was a very dangerous place, you know. And I believe there was a guy that you were together before you met me. He doesn't want to go with you to the village. That's to tell you that it was very, very dangerous.
When I arrived in Chibok to go film and interview and talk to and observe the 5-year anniversary of the unfortunate kidnapping of the schoolgirls, I wanted to meet one of the girls who had come back from the grips of Boko Haram. And the people who were there were either fearful or did not have the information or whatever other reason that they could not connect me to the girls. And the girls are in hiding as well, in a way. They live with their families, but they don't want Boko Haram to come back or somebody to know where they are. This is the reason why they did not stay at the American University of Yola, which is a university just 4 hours south of where they live. That's the vice president, the former vice president of the country actually created this place. He's a billionaire, I believe. And some of the girls do go there right now, but the ones that chose not to, which was about 9 girls, I believe, because of fear for retaliation for Boko Haram, they were not accorded a place by the government after they chose not to go to this university upon returning. So they were just sitting at home, and they were either farming or they were just taking care of children or their sisters or brothers, etc. And when I met Samson at this event where he was filming as well for the media, we talked, became friends, and he decided out of the goodness of his heart to help me find one of these girls to talk to them. And we did. We found one in her village just 5 minutes away from Sambisa Forest, where Boko Haram is hiding essentially, and where the government cannot go because it's too dangerous to try to go after them in the jungle. And this girl, this was around 4:30 p.m. The sun's about to go down, and sunset is when Boko Haram usually attacks the villages. So it's a dangerous moment
Yeah,
to be out there. And
it is. It is.
I mean, it was tense. It was scary. But then we kept contact
It
afterwards,
was.
and the next year and a half, now almost 2 years, these girls, because of you, okay, all I did was, I mean, I didn't do anything. I contacted you through social media. I sent a little bit of like money or whatever, what was needed, but you did the work. You are the guy that literally went from, people need to understand, Joss, where you are right now, is not like Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. Joss is like Washington, D.C. to like Dallas, Texas or something. It's actually very far. You were taking time out of your schedule to go out there to this dangerous area, which is hundreds of kilometers away, and you're taking public transportation. It's not like you got like your own, and you're going to this place and you're putting your life on the line to establish a school in the place where this group, Boko Haram, is notorious for kidnapping girls from school. Because what does Boko Haram mean in that language? It actually means no to Western education. That is the literal meaning of Boko Haram. So the concept of Boko Haram is actually that the concept of Western philosophy and education is something we do not accept. It's anti-Islam.
Yeah.
So this project, which now has gotten, after over a year, these girls, even though now they want to go back to their lives as newly married women, as mothers, as whatever, as farmers, whatever they want to do, we have helped them get these high school degrees, essentially.
Yes.
They can support their families. But it's all thanks to you, man. I want to take this love fest and push it back to you, Standing ovation to you.
Oh, man.
I'm sitting here in my warm home with my TV.
Okay.
This is you, man.
Thanks a lot, man. Well, I couldn't have done it without you. It is your own idea, so I'm still giving you all the thanks anyway. But speaking about the Boko Haram and the idea what Boko Haram means, I mean, it doesn't stop that. It doesn't stop there, because literally, if you look carefully now, you see that there are several kidnappings happening right now in the country. It had never been popular until after the Chibok girls' adoption.
And those are not Boko Haram, if you can clarify for the audience. Those are random bandits and other groups, right?
Well, I want you to understand one thing. It all go back to Boko Haram. Why? Because Boko Haram means Western education is unacceptable, right? So with the recent kidnapping going around, you find out that people now do not want to take their children to public school. So if they keep on, whether or not it is Boko Haram, whether bandit or no bandit, I'm telling you, I believe they are all the same thing. There might be some group of people in another state with a different name. They might not be called Boko Haram, but they have the same agenda. So for me, whether or not you call them bandit or not, these people have guns and ammunition.
Can we have you back one day on a different episode, and maybe we'll assess this a little bit deeper? I'd also like to maybe talk about something that we didn't hit on today, the Fulani herdsmen. Go Google it, everybody. But we can talk about the Fulanis at some point. Samsung has some experience with that situation as well. But there's so many different things.
Yeah, you remember that, right?
I remember that.
Yeah.
We won't spoil it for the audience, but we'll keep it for another.
Okay.
But Ben, any last thoughts on anything before we go?
A lot happening in Nigeria, and I look forward to speaking to you again about it. This has been really eye-opening for me. It's the stories you guys have shared together, as well as apart, are absolutely inspiring and horrifying, and all the adjectives. You guys really made me open my eyes a little bit. So thank you.
Maybe when he's traveling next, you should come with him.
He's been trying to get me on the road with him for 4 years now.
Let me tell you, this guy, he's hard to move. You think that driver would be freaking out? This guy would be freaking out like 10 times more.
I wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't have gone with you. I'd have found a hotel to stay at.
Out. Well, hey, this has been really fun. Samson, thank you for coming. You and I are gonna talk, of course, probably as soon as like tomorrow. We'll definitely catch up with you on a different episode. And for the audience, I hope that you guys learned something. If you want to take part in some of this NGO projects that we have with Global Shout, interact with Samson, and maybe do some stuff on your own out there, feel free to check out the links to the websites and to the social media. And on our next episode, which will be coming hopefully pretty soon, in the next week or so, we will be talking to people and activists on the ground in Myanmar right now who are battling against the coup d'etat from the Myanmar military against their democratically elected government. So you'll get to hear exactly what's going on there rather than what you may be hearing on the news. All right, I'm done. I'm good. Bon voyage.
This has been fun. This has been fun. Thanks again, Samson, for everything. We really appreciate you having you on the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy.